Hello and welcome to Advanced Programming Chapter 6. Some of the items in this that I wanted to kind of focus on, this is strings and screen input output. There's a number of different items, and I'll go through those. But the one thing that I wanted to point out is on page 101, it talks about using setf and unsetf. Understand how that works, but it doesn't often play out. Like, it doesn't work that way, but you should at least be aware of what that does. Alright, what I've done is I've created a program that kind of goes through some of the examples and gives you an idea of what's going on. So for instance, if I look right here where it says char student name 21, unlike strings in Visual Basic, well, I should say it's exactly like strings in Visual Basic, except strings in Visual Basic kind of changed on the fly. So if you declared something as a string and you put values in it, it would redefine the size of the string based on what it needed. Whereas in C++, you make it 21, it's 21. And it's not a string, it's an array of characters. The string support isn't hidden like Visual Basic, so you're dealing with those slots. So for instance, when I declare a student name as 21, I'm declaring it as an array of characters, or char, right, to be 21 long. So that's the first one to deal with. The second one to deal with is when I assign a value to an array, I have to use string copy. I can't just direct assign it, it just doesn't work. It says, no, I can't make the array equal to Bob or something along those lines. What I have to do is I have to do strcopy, strcpy, student name, and then what I actually want to put in it. Now in this case, it's not enough to fill it all the way up, and it'll only print out what it already has. So it says strcopy, an example would be strcopy destination array, where you want it to be, and the source array, what you want to put there. In our case, we have a string literal, meaning that I've defined what that is, and I've assigned it to student name, but it's there, right? So that's the first one. The next one is this allows us to get user input. Notice this is using one letter. So our cout still puts out information on the screen, right? Our cin now takes in values. You notice the chevrons reverse, right? It's kind of the flow of data. So standard cin input, or std cin input value. So it's going to input the value. Then std cout, you entered input value. So now I can have, here's my mix between string literals and actual values. So when I take in the cin, it puts input value as whatever the user's input. Now, if it seems that C++, this is kind of an odd one. I'm going to talk about this in a minute, but I do want to go ahead and run this real quick so you can see. So here's my code where I take in Oliver Villarreal, and it takes in that information, right? Takes it in, copies it to student name, and then sees it out. Awesome. Now my next thing, I see out my enter a single character. I'm going to put in D, and then I put enter. And so what it does is it sees in D as an input value, and then it turns around and sees out you enter D. So we're done with that. I'm going to press any key to continue, which is my system pause, and I'm done. Great. Now, there is one aspect of this that I want you to be aware of as you're taking in data. The way it works, the way C++ works when it takes in data, sometimes causes an issue. What happens is, let's say for instance, I'm going to write here on the board, let's say for instance I take in, I have an array that's 4 long and I take in 5 characters or 6 characters or whatever. When I take in information, I have what's known as an input string, or an input stream rather, okay? And the input stream is made up of characters. So if I put in Bob as an example, I'm going to put Bobby, B-O-B-B-Y. Can you see that? Yeah, pretty much. Okay. If I have seed in, let's say an array that takes in Bob, so here's my sample array, and I seed it in, or I see it in, and my sample array equals Bob. Well, what it does when I cin is it looks in the input stream, which in our case, our input stream is Bobby. So it's accounted for B, O, B. The problem is I still have BY in my input stream. I still have this in my input stream, which is BY. Okay? So the next time I do a cin, what it does is it defaults to the input stream first, and then if it doesn't find anything in the input stream, it then asks the user. It has a cursor that it waits. So it's waiting for some sort of input. If it has the input from the input stream, RBY, let's say I'm going to cin somebody's, if I have the expectation I'm going to cin if you're a Mr. or a Mrs. Well, if I see that in, and I do title as an example, okay? If I cin title, and the very first thing it does is it goes to the input stream. Well, if it goes to the input stream and it finds BI on there, or BY on there, title is going to end up being BY. And it's going to skip over seeing in any data because it looks to the input stream first. If that happens, and it's acting like it's not getting any sort of information, or it's getting information but it acts like it's not doing the cin, what's happened is it's just getting it from the file stream. There's something left over, some artifacts, I guess is the way to put it. It's getting that artifacts from the input file stream, and what you need to do is you need to simply flush the input file stream. And the way you do that is with this code right here. cin.ignore 80, n. Well, 80, n. And what it does is it goes to the input stream, and it ignores 80 characters, and then it does an end of line, meaning it's basically getting rid of everything in here. So now what happens is if I do my cin.ignore right here, okay, what's then going to happen is it's going to erase what's ever in here, and then when I cin my title the next time, it's going to go to the input file stream, not see anything there, and then ask the user, hey, input this value. And that's the time we use the cin.ignore, and that's when it actually comes into play. Okay? And the way the code works is the cin.ignore. This will flush the input file stream, so there is no more data, and it will ask for it from the user itself. And like I said, it's a fairly basic chapter. You should pretty much be able to get a hold of it. But if you have any questions or anything on the discussion, please make sure to post that on the discussion board, visit your resources, or talk to your substitute for some sort of information. All right, thank you very much for your time. Have a good day.